And chat, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to Route Double Before Crime After Days, where we are in Route D. We're in Route D! We're at the very start of Route D. Oh, boy. In one of Labo's laboratories, the professor gazed at Yuri and spoke. Ready, Yuri? Oh, right, it's flashback land. We need you to undergo training from now on to develop your BC ability. Right, and Natsuko hasn't told Mashiro who's coming for her. Okay. You've already learned telepathy and empathy. So I want you to acquire the next ability. The next ability? You mean there's another ability besides telepathy and empathy? It's been kept secret from the general public, you see, but there is a third ability that allows one to connect minds rather than just brains. And the name of that ability is Senses Sympathy. At last, a new tip! Oh, we're going to get so many tips in this route. A miraculous power that only appears in rank S aptitude communicators. Can I do something as amazing as that? No need to be so nervous. You're not the only Type S communicator in the world, after all. And the Senses Sympathy ability itself was discovered many years ago. Data have already been collected on communicator usage of the ability, and we've even compiled a training manual. So if you keep practicing in accordance with that manual, you're guaranteed to learn how to use it. I'll try my best. And thus the training began. To prepare, they first began with a lecture about the relationship between BC particles in the brain. Senses Sympathy is the ultimate form of BC. Yeah, Senses Sympathy is the name of the choice mechanic, yep. It's very funny that Watase has that choice mechanic. Senses Sympathy is the ultimate form of BC. But to understand how it works, first you need to learn about what are known as BC particles. BC particles? They're these elementary particles, tiny specks invisible to the eye, that transmit the thought information of living creatures, or basically their mind activity. Invisible specks? Mind activity? Take a look at this monitor for me. I'll explain using this diagram. The professor operated her computer as she spoke, upon which the monitor began to display a diagram explaining the relationship between BC particles and the human mind. You see, every corner of the world is filled with these BC particles. They're in your head and mine, as well as in the space between us and beyond. There are actually many subtypes of these particles, too. Normally, the only ones that exist are wanderer particles, or W particles for short. These particles contain no information whatsoever. One sec, guys. But when they come in contact with the human brain, they become loaded with the information energy fired off due to brain activity, transforming them into M particles. The M stands for mind, as the mind's information is written on these mind particles. All these types of particles relate to BC, and are thus generally referred to as BC particles. Incidentally, there are other types of BC particles, such as WX particles and lowercase b particles, but they don't relate to today's explanation, so we'll skip them for now. Okay, she is 9 years old. You see, normally, M particles can't leave the human brain. But when communicators use BC, the M particle energy in their brains increases. They use the surrounding W particles in concert, transforming them into M particles. This process propagates all the way to the target, This is the precise mechanism behind BC ability activation. Man, that's going to be a huge brain fart cloud when you're using citywide telepathy. The professor's lecture was more detailed than what high school students learned in school, but naturally, Yuri didn't understand. Just sitting there with question marks around her head. Professor, I'm sorry. All these M and W things, it's too hard to keep track of them all 2 of them. Oh, my apologies. I'll try to explain with simpler terminology then. For our purposes, there should be no fundamental problems with simply referring to all of these particles as BC particles. No, Miyoko, she's 9. Go dumber. That seems easier to understand. That's good. Then next, I'll explain the relationship between BC particles and BC abilities. For example, when you use telepathy, BC particles transmit from your minds to me. When you use empathy, it's the opposite. You receive BC particles transmitted from my mind. Wait, if you don't have the psychic mutation that lets you transmit M particles from your own brain outwards, how do people read minds? How would any psychic read your mind? That doesn't make any sense. But senses sympathy is an ability that uses BC particles as an intermediary for continuous observation of the target's thought information in its entirety. The sights the target sees, the sounds the target hears, their thoughts. The Esper feels all of the target's sensory information. So they feel all of that person's mind activity then? That's correct. In other words, your brain maintains a perfect connection with someone else's via BC particles. That is, it's akin to linking 2 computers through a LAN connection. You know, a LAN connection, a thing that kids stopped caring about 15 years before this game takes place. When that happens, your own senses vanish, and you observe the world through the target's senses instead. So is it like turning into a ghost and possessing someone? Yes, actually. I don't believe in ghosts, but it probably feels something close to that. Do your best until you can pull off that ability. I'll be here for you the entire time. Let's begin. Senses Sympathy Trial Experiment Number 1. Phase 1. Act. And just as the professor had told her to, Yuri partook in the experiments that day. And the next day, and the next day, and the day after that. Okay, Yuri, let's try it one more time. Senses Sympathy Trial Experiment Number 1026, Phase 1 Act. So 3 years. Almost. Almost? Yeah, almost. Okay, here I go. Yuri focused with all her mind and tried to connect it to the professor in front of her. And at that moment, she took control. Her vision swayed, and in an instant, what she saw completely changed. She was looking at herself through the professor's point of view. Professor, I did it! Huh? I saw myself. That means it worked, right? The professor's eyes widened, but her surprise soon changed into a smile. That's amazing, Yuri. I can't believe you've gotten this far in just a month. Is that good? Just a month, huh? Okay. 1,000 experiments in a month. That's 33 experiments per day. It's better than good. You're a genius. The professor hugged Yuri. Wrapped in the warmth of those arms, Yuri smiled in relief. The professor was always kind to Yuri and spent much time with her, both in and out of experiments. And perhaps as a result, Yuri gradually eased into her new life. Well, that explains why she's so absent from Natsuhiko's life, is she's being a mom to Yuri. And I guess keeping her distance from Natsuhiko until the experiment concluded and she didn't have to worry about him. Kind of fucked up that she wound up being more of a mom to Yuri than to Natsuhiko. And perhaps as a result, Yuri gradually eased into her new life. After that success, the experiments continued further. The sense of sympathy ability you acquired yesterday is BC in its true form. The truth is that both telepathy and empathy are but mere immature forms of that ability. Senses sympathy uses BC particles as an intermediary to place the target's mind completely under the surveillance of the Esper. Allow me to explain exactly how the underlying mechanism works, 9-year-old child. The professor operated the computer as she spoke, upon which the monitor displayed the same diagram she previously used to explain the mechanism of BC. I think the word intracerebral is a bit too cerebral for the 9-year-old. All information involved in brain activity undergoes constant mutual interaction with the intracerebral BC particles, that is, the ones inside the brain. All thoughts and information perceived through the senses are copied onto the intracerebral BC particles. Conversely, the information on the intracerebral BC particles has a constant effect on the brain. This is the relationship between the brain and the intracerebral BC particles. This relationship enables the user of the senses sympathy ability to perceive all of the information on the target's intracerebral BC particles. So it's like a powered-up empathy? That's roughly correct. Normal empathy is unusable if the target's heart isn't opened up to the Esper, but that hurdle can be cleared. The noise heard during empathy is thought to be a self-defense mechanism provided by the brain. But complete sympathy of the senses apparently bypasses that defense. So you mean it allows you to read anyone's mind then? Indeed, but that's not the only distinction senses sympathy has from empathy. One key difference is that you aren't limited to simply perceiving the information the target is currently perceiving. But you can also go back and perceive their past memories as well. Huh? Their memories too? Indeed, memories are just another form of intracerebral information. By merely wishing to know the target's past, the Esper can see each and every one of the target's memories. Furthermore, the Esper can even transmit intracerebral information of their own to the target. The intense information energy released by the Esper propagates all the way to the target's intracerebral BC particles. And those BC particles in turn cause the target's brain to change accordingly, giving rise to false sensory information. And it's not limited to auditory information. The Esper can create hallucinations in all the senses, including sight, smell, taste, and touch. Wait, has the Yuri that Natsuhiko has been hallucinating isn't the actual Yuri, is it? Has this Yuri been projecting herself into Natsuhiko's brain? So is that part like powered-up telepathy? Correct, except the Esper isn't limited to just auditory hallucinations, but visual hallucinations among other things as well. And of course, the hallucinations aren't limited to just the current sensory information either. It's possible to create hallucinations in the target's past memories as well. And that is the entirety of the ability known as senses sympathy. Any questions? I see. I understand how it's an amazing ability. Yes, it is quite the tremendous ability indeed. Yuri, do you realize just what unspeakable horrors... to Do you realize just what unspeakable horrors are possible by combining those two aspects of this ability? Well, that's a big jump in topic. Save that for when the kid's older. Huh? By peeking into the target's memories and creating hallucinations within them, you're manipulating memories. You can replace original memories with new ones, or delete memories entirely. Is that possible? I can do that? Yes, it's the most difficult technique that only those who have mastered all BC abilities can accomplish. As far as I know, only 2 communicators in the entire world have successfully done it, and in 9 years there will be a third. But the ability indeed exists. BC is the ability to manipulate information. Tip BC added, this far into the game? And the human brain is packed with information. Full mastery of senses sympathy would allow you to manipulate every single function of the human brain. Just like how Maxwell's demon manipulates information. Oh, Maxwell's demon, huh? I think the last time I heard about Maxwell's demon was in a Zero Escape game. The professor looked Yuri in the eye. Yuri, you're going to become a being beyond human. Well, don't give her a big head about it. A being beyond human. She had no desire of her own to become something like that. But if it would please the professor, she would try her best to give it a shot. And at long last, the memory manipulation clinical experiments on mice began. Oh, okay. Didn't realize you could do that to animals. Yuri, the mouse brain is much more simple than the human brain. It stores far less information in memory. So, if you focus very, very, very hard to make its past memories disappear, it'll go brain dead. Gross. The mouse's memory should disappear. As the professor spoke, she pointed to a small corner in the room. There was a small mouse cage with a tiny labyrinth inside. You see, that mouse has been through that maze several times, so it's learned the correct route. Today, let's try to erase that mouse's memory. Huh? But Mr. Mouse took all that time to learn it. I know it's a pity, but he's a smart mouse, so he'll relearn it quickly. Okay, I'll do it. Yuri walked up to the cage and tried using senses sympathy on the mouse. The mouse's simple, abstract thoughts flowed into Yuri's mind. She searched through the mouse's memory to find the maze route. It was a process similar to recalling one's own memories. Which one of these is the maze route? At that moment, right before Yuri's eyes, floated the mouse's memory of running around inside the maze. I just need to erase this, huh? Yuri wished with all her willpower for that memory to disappear, and the mouse had a seizure. In that very instant, an intense pain ran through her. Yuri returned to reality in shock. The mouse went limp in the cage. Professor, something happened to Mr. Mouse. Don't worry, he's just unconscious. But why? The memory that was in the mouse's brain is a lump of powerful information and energy. It's quite different from the mouse's current sensory information. Because memories don't disappear all at once, they remain welled up inside the brain. During memory erasure, you hit a memory with the command disappear in the form of even stronger information energy. The inside of the target's brain reacts violently when you do so, which is only natural since the seemingly impossible event of instant memory erasure is forced to occur. Consequently, memory erasure is accompanied by brain damage. So it's not just messing with Watase's memory that Natsuhiko's been doing. He's been really fucking up his brain. No way. Yuri looked at the mouse with feelings of guilt in her heart. Are you frightened by your own power? Yes. This is but one of the things you can do with intracerebral information and manipulation. Have you come to at least somewhat understand the reason rank S aptitude communicators are feared? As Yuri hung her head in shame, the professor hugged her shoulders and spoke gently to her. Let's end today's experiment here. Yuri nodded softly, her heart fearfully throbbing in pain. But that was the only time Yuri felt such pain. Her days devoted to experimentation went by fairly calmly after that. Before she had realized it, 3 months had passed since Yuri had come to Labo. We're on experiment 10,000! A personal bedroom had been made for Yuri underneath Labo. Ushinawareru Monogatari, Lost Story. As she surveyed her new room, Yuri thought to herself, there's a lot more stuff here now, huh? Dr. Tenkawa did her best to accommodate Yuri. Hey, she gets a TV. She gave Yuri everything she wanted. Girly clothes, piles of books, anything. It's a little inconvenient, but it's a lot better than the life I've lived before, which is sad. Just as that thought passed through Yuri's head, the room door opened and Dr. Tenkawa came in. Wait, why did you give her books this tall? She can't reach those shelves. Yuri, it's time for experiments. Okay. Yuri smiled in reply to the professor's gentle voice. According to Dr. Tenkawa, Yuri's real parents had been told directly after the accident that their daughter had died due to the fire. They apparently accepted the explanation without question and left town immediately, as the pieces of shit. Since they were by no means nice parents, Yuri was not at all sad that she could no longer see them. She was actually happier to be showered with plenty of love from Dr. Tenkawa instead. Yuri went with the professor to the laboratory in Area 5. Oh, I'll bet this is why Yuri thought that Natsuhiko would hate her after seeing her memories, is because she thought he might be jealous of the attention his mom gave her. What are we doing today? Another memory manipulation experiment, continuing off from yesterday. Alrighty, I'll try my best. After knocking the mouse unconscious, Yuri underwent various other memory manipulation training sessions. Today seemed to be a continuation of that, but... Now then, I'll be your target for today. Huh? I want to experience memory manipulation firsthand. But isn't it dangerous? Don't worry, even if you erase a few seconds of memory, it shouldn't cause that much damage. I understand. You're entrusting your brain to a 9-year-old, Dr. Tenkawa. Okay, then let's start with memory erasure. As Yuri spoke, she took a pen and wrote a few letters on a piece of paper. When Yuri finished writing Orihime, she showed the piece of paper to the professor. Okay, Professor, try to memorize this. Orihime, Okay, I've memorized it. That's princess in Japanese, right? Okay, then I'll erase that memory. Yuri reached out her hand and touched the professor's cheek. At that very same moment, the professor's consciousness streamed into Yuri's brain. She called out the memory she wanted from among the extensive collection of complicated memories. This must be it. Orihime, Okay, I've memorized it. It was a vision of what had happened about 10 seconds ago, but from Dr. Tenkawa's point of view. Erase this memory. Yuri focused hard and destroyed that part of the memory. Okay, I've memorized it. Okay, I've... It. The meaning of the words disappeared, and the visuals became covered with static. The memory disintegrated into dust and disappeared into the darkness of the professor's consciousness. Hime is princess? I think Orihime is a specific princess. Gotcha. Ugh. When Yuri returned to reality, she saw the professor groan in pain. Are you okay? My head hurts a little, but I'm okay. No need to worry. Yuri was relieved to hear the professor's words. In that case, question time. What did I write? Huh? There was a stumped look on the professor's normally wise and intellectual face. Yuri found it somewhat amusing, so she teased her. Bzzz, time's up. The answer was Orihime. Ah, Orihime, Alright, I've memorized it for sure this time. Okay, so next up is memory alteration. Okay, whenever you're ready. So now she's going to change it to a different word in her head. Of course, if she wanted to be a little shit, she could pretend to do something, say that she's changed the memory, and then just say that she picked a different word than besides Orihime. Okay, whenever you're ready. Here I go. Yuri wished strongly to connect with the professor's mind. And once again, the professor's consciousness streamed into Yuri's brain. Yuri called out the memory of a few seconds ago. Ah, Orihime, Alright, I've memorized it for sure this time. Change this memory. Yuri focused hard and... Hikoboshi. What does that mean? The vision of the memory warped itself into another memory. When Yuri returned to reality, the professor looked blankly at her. Oh my, are you already done? Yes, so now it's question time. What did I write on that piece of paper? Hikoboshi, right? Hikoboshi is the name of the other character in the story with Orihime. Gotcha. The professor answered as if it were obvious. But Yuri smiled impishly and revealed the paper to the professor. Bzzz, the correct answer was Orihime. Ah, you're right. The professor stared fixedly at the word Orihime written on the paper. It feels a little odd now that I've experienced it firsthand. It does, doesn't it? You have given a 9-year-old way too much power. As Yuri and the professor smiled at each other, a sharp voice suddenly bellowed. What do you think you're doing, Dr. Tenkawa? The voice came from the speaker installed in the ceiling of the laboratory. Oh my, looks like we've got someone troublesome on our case. The laboratory was monitored in a different room via cameras. The professor turned to the camera and answered in irritation. I filed the approval form yesterday to perform memory manipulation experiments today. What's the problem? You never said you would be the target. I thought we made it clear that AD injection was required during any contact with subject Y2. Besides, you must be mad to experiment on yourself in the first place. What are you going to do if you permanently damage your brain? We've done more than enough animal experiments to prove that it's not dangerous. It's for the sake of advancing research. Please, don't fuss over every minor detail. Once Dr. Tenkawa finished speaking, the speakers cut out. But something about that exchange felt strange to Yuri. Why was the professor so insistent to perform experiments on herself? Professor, why are you doing this? Gotta know how it feels firsthand. Also, I guess she doesn't want other people dragged into the experiment. The professor slowly looked back and spoke to Yuri. Actually, you see, there's one thing I'd like to ask of you. Huh? Oh, is she gonna ask for a false memory? Right now, Natehiko's body is in serious condition. I want you to save him. Oh, that brain ghost Yuri was real Yuri. They keep jerking me back and forth with that. Hikarin's body? What happened to him? It's hard to describe with words, so go back through my memories and see it for yourself. Look through my memories relating to Natsuhiko after the accident. You'll understand his current condition then. Okay. Yuri timidly dove into the professor's memory. It was a memory of right around 3 months ago. Flashback to the flashback that we've seen already. In it, Natsuhiko was lying in a bed in a hospital room at Rokame City Hospital. But he wasn't asleep. He was frozen still, his eyes blankly open. Beside him were the professor, as well as Mashiro. Natsuhiko? Mashiro called out to Natsuhiko, but there was no response. Hey, what's wrong, Natsuhiko? Can't you hear me? Hey! He can't hear you. Huh? He's been like that ever since he learned about Yuri's death. It's not just you, Mashiro. He won't respond to anyone, not to me, nor the doctors. He couldn't come to terms with the truth, and he shut his mind away. No way. Yuri was still shocked when she returned to reality. Hikarin. She couldn't believe that such a cheery and energetic boy like Natsuhiko could end up in that state. Natsuhiko loved you so much. It was such a pity to see him like that, even though it was all a lie. I never expected that our lie would shatter his mind. Yuri wanted to save Natsuhiko. That was why she sacrificed her freedom in his place. So why? Why did this have to happen? That was a question that likely nobody could answer. But even so, Yuri spoke to the one person she could rely on. I never could have imagined this would happen. What can I do? What can I do for Hikarin? I know. Can't we just tell him that I'm alive? I'm sure even Hikarin would. We can't. Right now, Labo sees your existence as a top priority secret matter. If Natsuhiko were to learn about your survival, then Labo would surely incarcerate him too. And besides, we have no means to tell him. He's unaware of his surroundings. Then there's nothing we could do but let Hikarin stay that way? When Yuri asked her that question, the professor shook her head. No. There is one way. Huh? Yuri, you've been training your BC ability throughout these past 3 months, correct? You might be able to save Natsuhiko with that power of yours. The professor's words shook Yuri. Professor, what do you want me to do? Use your power to dive into Natsuhiko's brain and erase all of his memories of you. That is not what she does. That was the professor's plan. Or rather, even if the professor hadn't told her, Yuri had thought of that method as well. It was his memories of me that made Hikarin turn out that way. So to set Hikarin free... Soon enough, Yuri answered in a faint voice. As long as it will return Hikarin to normal. That night, Natsuhiko was transferred from Rokame City Hospital to Labo. He was laid on a bed in the neuroscience laboratory. Yuri and the professor stood next to him and looked at his face. Natsuhiko didn't respond to Yuri's presence. His eyes were shut. He was put to sleep with drugs. If you manipulate his memories now, he'll never even be aware of it. So how do we go from wiping Yuri out of his brain to brain ghost Yuri? It still took some time for Yuri to find her resolve. Yeah, it's pretty dark. After a long period of silence, she spoke resolutely. I'll do it. Okay, please begin. All right. Yuri nodded and looked at the sleeping boy's face. Looks like it's time to say goodbye, Hikarin. Yuri's mind was calm. She resolved herself to be calm, at least, just this once. Even if you forget about me, I'll never forget about you, Hikarin. No matter how sad and lonely the rest of her days would be. She burned the image of his sleeping face in her mind, lest she forget about this day. Excuse me. Goodbye. Finally, Yuri reached out her hand and touched Natsuhiko's forehead. Just then, countless visions floated before Yuri's eyes. There's going to be too many to delete, I think. They were memories that were not her own. Rather, they were Natsuhiko's memories of her. Yuri peered into the first of them. Don't flash us back to flashbacks we've already seen. Come on! It was the memory of the day Yuri and Natsuhiko first met. Hey, why are you crying? Huh? Who are you? I'm Natsuhiko. Natsuhiko? You're Yuri Kotono, right? Your family just moved in nearby. Yeah. Let's be friends. We live in the same neighborhood after all. It was a memory that Yuri fondly remembered herself, except this time she saw it through Natsuhiko's point of view. This sure brings me back, Hikarin. You surprised me at first, you know? You called out to me so suddenly that you seemed like kind of a rough boy to me. But you know, I was happy. Because thanks to you, every day after that was a fun day for me. But you couldn't just keep gazing at this memory forever. Yuri focused hard to erase this memory. And soon enough, the vision grew hazy. You're Kotono, right? Okay, so clearly this memory came back. And it disappeared. And at the same time, Yuri heard what sounded like Natsuhiko screaming. Even though he was stupefied, he probably still felt the damage of memory erasure. I'm sorry, Hikarin. I'm so sorry. Yuri hardened her heart and transferred her consciousness to the next memory, upon which a different vision floated before her. What do you want to be when you grow up, Yuri? It was a memory of a conversation they had quite a while after they had met. Yuri thought, oh, I almost forgot this happened. When I grow up, there are a lot of things I want to be, so I just can't choose. When I grow up, I want to be your bride, Hikarin. Well, this one did not come back. What? Is that a no? Hikarin, do you hate me? No, I don't hate you, but it was a silly little conversation that only young children could have. Hikarin was so embarrassed. How cute. Yuri felt a little embarrassed herself. But unfortunately, this memory cannot be allowed to remain. Yuri wished hard for it to disappear. And thus, yet another memory of Yuri vanished from Natsuhiko's brain. Okay, that's 2 down. 500 to go. Her work was proceeding smoothly, and yet Yuri's heart throbbed in intense pain. She felt as if with each memory she erased, she tore open a void in her own mind. Even though it wasn't her own memories she was erasing. There's still lots more to go. I gotta keep it up. Yuri encouraged herself to continue with her work. Man, that sure was interesting. Yeah, we read all the way to the end. Is this a picture of your mom, Natsuhiko? Huh? Oh, yeah. There is one thing that makes me glad I was born a communicator. Huh? Well, it's because that's how I met you. If I wasn't a communicator, I never would have moved to this town. These poor kids. One by one, the visions came. One by one, she erased them. One by one, she killed all traces of herself within Natsuhiko. With each memory erased, Natsuhiko suffered intense pain. And the pain in Yuri's heart grew little by little as well. But eventually, she had erased just about all of the relevant memories, including the one of them coming to Labo just a few months ago. There's just one more memory. One more memory, and I'll have vanished from Hikarin's mind. Yuri withstood the pain in her heart to peek into his final memory. But Yuri gasped once she saw the vision that spread out before her. It was a vast night sky filled with stars all the way across the heavens. The two children looked up at the Milky Way that nostalgic summer night. The stars sure are pretty, huh? Yeah. Natsuhiko responded to Yuri's words. The two of them were next to each other. Natsuhiko held Yuri's hands tight as he spoke. Hey, Yuri. Huh? I'll never forget what happened today. I'll never forget looking at the stars with you. Those were Natsuhiko's words. If Yuri but willed it, this memory would sink into the darkness. With that, everything would be wrapped up neatly, and yet, she's not emotionally strong enough to do this. I wouldn't be either. Yuri couldn't bring herself to do it. Me too. I don't want to forget either, Hikari. Huh? Within Natsuhiko's memory, Yuri's tears streamed out. Even though such a memory was impossible, it seemed Yuri began to fabricate his memory with her transcendental ability, almost unconsciously. What's wrong, Yuri? I don't want to erase this memory. That was the honest desire she had locked up deep within her heart. Her true feelings. Please, Hikari, don't forget about me. With that final desire conveyed to Natsuhiko, Yuri returned to reality. Once she was back, Yuri cried tears in the real world as well. And, in her blurry vision, she saw Dr. Tenkawa peeking at her. Yuri? What's wrong? Did something happen? Yuri shut her eyes tight and squeezed out an answer. I'm sorry, Professor. I can't do it. Yuri, what are you... The professor tried to stop Yuri. But before she could, Yuri used Sense's sympathy once more. Only a single memory of Yuri remained. But all of the memories Yuri erased still remained deep within her heart of hearts. For the memories she erased were the memories they shared. which meant there was only one thing for her to do. Shouldn't this restore his memories, but from her perspective? Are you crying? Yuri reconstructed the memories she erased based on her own knowledge. She restored memory after memory. I want to be your bride, Hikaru. Yeah, we read all the way to the end. Is this a picture of your mom, Natsuhiko? That was from a communicator. It's how I met you. She was restoring Natsuhiko's memory in a matter of moments. But doing so would mean Natsuhiko would once again know about Yuri's death. And then he would once again blame himself and shatter his mind. So what's your plan? So Yuri made her resolve. I've got no choice but to replace the me that's gone with a me that's there. Yuri dove into Natsuhiko's memory of that fateful night. The night Natsuhiko learned of Yuri's death 3 months prior. Natsuhiko, please calm down and listen carefully. Yuri breathed her last breath last night. Huh? No way. Why did Yuri... In reality, Natsuhiko screamed after this. That was likely the very moment his mind lost its balance. In that case, this memory just needs to be changed. Yuri focused to do just that. To change this memory into a new one. And then Natsuhiko screamed, holding back his tears. That's a lie. Yuri can't be dead. He jumped out of his bed and ran off. He ran down the hall, searching for Yuri. Yuri, you're around, aren't you? Please, come out! No matter how many neighboring rooms he called out to, he got no response. Natsuhiko rushed out of the hospital in search of Yuri. He aimlessly wandered around town. But he couldn't find her anywhere. Not at her house, nor at the park where they met, nor in their nostalgic secret base. Yuri! Yuri! When he tired of searching, the last place Natsuhiko headed was his own home. The house was steeped in darkness. Natsuhiko blankly called out her name. Yuri! But obviously, he didn't expect to get an answer. However, just then, from across the dark room, sitting in the darkness like a creep. Hikari! Yuri's voice called out in reply. Yuri? Natsuhiko rushed up to her. Thank goodness, you're alive. You thought I was dead? But Mom was saying weird things. I'm not dead at all. Yuri smiled at Natsuhiko. See, Hikarin, I'll always be right here. I'll always be with you. So please, don't forget about me. Those were the words she could not tell him in the real world. But they were the words both Yuri and Natsuhiko wished for. Even if those words were a lie, they sank deep into Natsuhiko's mind and drove away the truth. There's no way I'd ever forget. She did this to him. Once everything was complete, Yuri returned to reality. The professor murmured in a hollow voice. Yuri. I'm sorry, Professor. I couldn't do it. Yuri felt genuinely sorry. She knew what she had done was inexcusable, but that's fine. The professor's voice was kind, which only served to deepen the pain in Yuri's heart. Let's go before Natsuhiko wakes up. Okay. They quietly left the laboratory. You know, I am a little sad that the tulpa theory... I am a little sad that the tulpa theory didn't pan out. Like, Anna not being Dr. Tenkawa, and this Yuri not being a tulpa. I'm a little sad those theories didn't pan out. They quietly left the laboratory, leaving Natsuhiko behind. Natsuhiko was astonished. That was the whole story of what had happened to him. A complete record of a truth unrevealed to him, even when he had dived into Mashiro's memory. I was only able to wake up from my stupefaction because of Yuri. But what happened as a result of her efforts? Of course, Natsuhiko himself was well aware of exactly what happened to him after that. But even so, in order to affirm the entire truth, he pursued Yuri's memories furthermore. Alright. Whoops. The next thing Natsuhiko saw was far further into the future than what he saw last. I have to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to save. And I will be right back. And back. Chat and game. A memory of the recent past. Natsuhiko naturally knew just how much time had passed. It's 9 years after that day, huh? Yes, this was a memory of just around 2 months ago. That day, Yuri was in her own room in Labo, having a talk with the professor. July 7th has come again this year, huh? That was quick. Has it really been 9 years already? In all that time, Yuri had grown, both physically and mentally. As a test subject, Yuri had proven to be a major contribution to Labo's developed products, especially in the fields of AD development and BC insulator improvement. She had not a single worry and spent her days in true peace. Better than it could have gone? Excuse me. Yuri, how have these 9 years been for you? Huh? Well, they were fun. Yeah, maybe compared to how you were living before. You've bought me anything I've ever wanted, and I get to live in such a nice room, too. Yeah, she's more of a mom to Yuri than to Natsuhiko. The only luxury she wasn't afforded was the freedom to go outside. But she had already stopped thinking about it. And besides, you're really nice, Professor. All the little things make me happy. You're like a real mom to me. Yuri. The professor wrapped her arms around Yuri's shoulders. Just as Yuri had said, the professor showered her with unrestrained love, which is fucked up that she loves Yuri more than Natsuhiko. The origin of that love was almost certainly due to the guilt she felt for Yuri. But regardless, the two of them forged relationship akin to a real mother and daughter. They shared a deep understanding of each other. But now that today has come, we really do need to start thinking. About Hikarin, right? Indeed, now that today had come, there was something they were keenly reminded of, whether they wanted to think of it or not. Ever since that night when Yuri had manipulated his memories, Natsuhiko had started seeing a phantom of her. 9 years ago, Yuri fabricated a false memory for Natsuhiko, that she was alive and always with him. And as part of that fabrication, she chose not to restore some of his memories, such as the particulars of the incident and how his BC abilities had awakened. It was a very selfish use of memory manipulation, one that left a scar on his mind. A human's personality consists of an accumulation of memories. The spirit is the aggregation of information within the brain. The addition of fabricated memories created a decisive inconsistency with reality. Okay, and so, did Yuri reach out to were those... Okay, so for the past week, those static triggers where Brain Ghost Yuri completely changed demeanor were real Yuri reaching out to him. So in order to reconcile that inconsistency, Natsuhiko's brain created a phantom Yuri to restore mental balance. With just minor tampering to his memory, Natsuhiko became so firmly adherent to those lies that even his perception of reality became warped. Over these past 9 years, Yuri had become painfully aware of the sheer magnitude of the effects memory manipulation had on the human mind. Tell me, Professor, was I right to do what I did? I can't say whether it was right or wrong, but it was true that you had no other choice. It was probably too hard for you to completely erase all of his memories of you with perfect accuracy to begin with. Huh? We didn't really know it yet back then, but as our research progressed, we established that there are several issues with memory erasure, haven't we? Yeah, they come back. Such as how, in almost all cases, erased memories are eventually restored. Good point. Memories are lumps of powerful information energy. and memory erasure is an ability that destroys that lump of energy by striking it with even stronger energy, which in turn causes the memory to disperse into fragments that are impossible to remember. However, the fragments of the memory and the memory in its entirety do not completely disappear. With the passage of enough time, given some sort of impetus, the brain can restructure the fragmentary information and restore the memory. The target's reaction is also significant. After all, sudden amnesia would astonish just about anybody, to the point where they'd be driven to try and recall the vanished memory by whatever means necessary. And besides, after you and Natsuhiko met, you were always together. Even if you forcibly erased all of his memories, there's no doubt that somebody would eventually bring you up as a matter of discussion. And once that happened, Natsuhiko would notice the contradiction between his memories and reality, and would reach another deadlock with the truth. There was no other way to break that cycle than to do what you did. Just as the professor said, it was found to be far easier to cope with memory manipulation than with memory erasure. When a certain memory is replaced with a different memory, the brain obediently accepts the change. The reason for that is that rather than undergoing amnesia, the target may experience various other phenomena, such as believing they simply remembered wrong. But Yuri was well aware of what she had done. I'm sorry, Professor, but that's not all there was to it. When she was a child, Yuri just couldn't bear having Natsuhiko forget about her. But as a result, she had to keep cleaning up the mess she had made. Oh, she's been reaching out the whole time. As Yuri reflected upon her actions, the professor suddenly looked at her watch. Oh my, it's almost time for that boy to arrive. That boy, huh? Ah, right. Let's go, Yuri. It's time for your yearly date? Okay. Yuri nodded and left the room with the professor. Oh, are they going to try to mate her with somebody? To make psychic super babies? They headed for the Area 5 Neuroscience Laboratory. There, Yuri reunited with Natsuhiko. It's been a whole year, hasn't it, Hikari? In front of them was Natsuhiko, put to sleep with drugs. Labo staff had brought him all the way here. Excuse me. Yuri, you'd rather be alone with him, wouldn't you? I'll be waiting outside. Yes, thank you. The professor smiled boldly as she left the room. Back on the night when Yuri agreed to her incarceration in Labo, she had asked the professor for one favor. Please let me see him, even just once in a while, even just once a year, please. That's all I ask. I promise. The professor kept that promise. Once each year, on July 7th, the anniversary of the accident, Yuri was allowed to see him in this fashion. Granted, Natsuhiko himself was not aware of these little dates. He was under the impression that he stayed at Rokame City Hospital once a year for a yearly checkup. This is messed up. And once he was there, he'd be administered with a sleeping medication and taken to Labo, and back again before he woke up. This is the only way we can meet, but it's plenty. However, the purpose of these reunions wasn't only so she could see his face. He was brought here once a year to renew the memory of the Yuri that was inside him. The phantom Yuri created by his brain was, after all, a phantom and nothing more. If no action were taken, the phantom Yuri would gradually become disparate from the real Yuri. Which is why their clothes match, okay. This was, in essence, maintenance to adjust for changes and disparities. Such was the truth of Natsuhiko's yearly checkups. So they are actually yearly checkups. Not quite sure if this is really for Hikarin's sake. But to be honest, I'm glad I get to see him. Forgive me, Hikari. Yuri gently bowed her head and stepped up to Natsuhiko. How was your year? And thus, Yuri dove into Natsuhiko's memory. A year's worth of memories floated in Natsuhiko's mind. They were sights of an uneventful daily life. Natsuhiko, food's ready. Sorry for always making you do this. It's fine, it's fine. I'm doing it because I want to see your smiling face. It was a scene of a morning before school. It's Mashiro. Yuri loved Mashiro too. Though it was only in a memory, Yuri was honestly glad to see Mashiro again. There you go, joking again. It's not for me, but for Yuri, right? Saw through my ruse. Apparently, Mashiro began cooking meals at Natsuhiko's house this spring. So, these newest memories included a lot of memories with Mashiro. Come on, Natsuhiko, we're gonna be late. Sorry, I ate too much during breakfast. Each individual memory was trivial by itself. Natsuhiko, come shopping with me. There's just a few things I want to buy. What? More anime shop visits? Why not? Not like you're busy, right? But something bothered Yuri about Mashiro's facial expressions in these memories. Natsuhiko, look at this. Cute, right? Oh, is Yuri gonna be jealous? So what you wanted to buy was clothes? Look, I don't really get girl clothes. Excuse me. I just want a boy's opinion. Want to get a less biased view, that's all. The way Mashiro looked at, spoke to, and behaved with Natsuhiko made it quite obvious that she was falling in love with him. Mashiro. She likes Hikarin? As Yuri returned to reality, she gazed at Natsuhiko's sleeping face and whispered, "That's right. I can't keep Hikarin to myself forever. It would be way too cruel to do that to Mashiro. Mashiro's a way better girl than I am, after all. Hikarin's better off with her." At any rate, Yuri would never be able to properly see Natsuhiko in person for the rest of her life. It was already unnatural for her to be seeing him this way as it was. In that case, both Natsuhiko and Mashiro would be better off if they forgot about Yuri. That thought began to rapidly spread within Yuri's mind. She walked out of the laboratory with slumped shoulders to find the professor waiting in the hall. "Yuri, how was your yearly date?" "Professor, do you think it would be better if I replaced all of Hikarin's memories of me with memories of Mashiro?" "No, Mashiro would notice." "Huh? What makes you say that again?" "It's just, if I don't, then Mashiro will never..." "Are you worrying yourself over Mashiro?" Yuri nodded weakly. But after a moment of contemplation, the professor shook her head and replied, "It would probably be bad to do that." "Why's that?" "I believe that manipulating Natsuhiko's memories about you would cause serious problems in his mind." "Oh no, but if I do it carefully, then..." "No, your existence is too important to Natsuhiko to just erase it. And even if that weren't the case, Natsuhiko's mind is already affected by innumerable problems." "Huh?" "So far, Natsuhiko has nearly noticed your absence several times, but he has yet to recognize it. That cognitive dissonance has resulted in bizarre behavior from him as well." "Bizarre behavior?" "For example, Natsuhiko has prepared hot milk for you in our living room before, correct?" "Yes." "But since you don't actually exist there, the milk in your cup never decreases in volume, see?" But Natsuhiko never questioned that fact. He empties the completely full cup of cold milk in the sink without a word. If you try and tell him that the cup's full, he just says, "Huh, what?" and makes a genuinely confused face. Is that a thing? It is. It's called denial syndrome, incidentally. Getting so many tips today. He's had several other instances of bizarre behavior. For example, every day before he leaves for school, he turns the living room lights on. The lights? Why? Because if he didn't, there would be no lights on at home by the time he got back. It wouldn't make sense if there were no lights on in the house, even though you were supposed to be there. So, to avoid that inconsistency, Natsuhiko turns the lights on before he leaves the house. He does it all unconsciously. He must use a lot of power? I don't think the lights being on uses that much kilowattage. Once she had heard all that, Yuri murmured in a quivering voice. Then all because of me, Hikarin's... Those are pretty minor things relative to everything else that's going on in his brain. No, it's not your fault. Denial syndrome often occurs when the brain encounters any sort of functional abnormality. Such cases have been reported worldwide. All of the bizarre behaviors Natsuhiko has demonstrated have been seen in other patients. So please, don't you ever say it's your fault again. That didn't stop the tears from flowing. The gravity of her actions 9 years ago threatened to crush Yuri. Professor, what do I do? Let's see. If Natsuhiko were to become strong enough to handle the truth one day, maybe it would be okay to tell it to him then. But how will we know when that time has come? We won't. So one day I'll free you from Labo, I swear. Yuri doubted her ears. She couldn't believe the leading researcher in the field of BC would say such a thing. Labo will no longer have a reason to restrain you once we've solved all the mysteries surrounding BC. I intend to devote my life to make sure that happens. I doubt it will redeem me for my sin of destroying your life, though. But you didn't. And even if I can't fulfill that promise, I will gladly do whatever I can to get you all out of here, even if it costs me my life. You all, huh? Ooh, did Dr. Tenkawa call the terrorists? Huh? Truth be told, I've been secretly advancing preparations for such a plan. It's not something I can do alone, so it'll be a difficult journey, but one day, for sure. The professor spoke remorsefully as she brought Yuri into a gentle embrace. Yuri understood that it was another wish that could not be granted. For the two of them had been together for 9 years. Yuri could tell the professor felt hopeless, even without using BC. BC research is endless, and I'm sure there are other reasons why they keep me incarcerated. Not that I can imagine what those reasons are. But regardless, she questioned whether or not she had to stay there forever. She questioned how to free Natsuhiko and Mashiro from the curse she cast over them. But without her finding a single answer to any of these questions, the days passed by. And then came the day of fate, roughly 2 months after Tanabata, September 16th, 2030. Early morning that day, Yuri went with Dr. Tenkawa to the neuroscience laboratory. Sorry for starting your day so early, Yuri. For whom the bell tolls. It's okay. We're doing a very important experiment today, aren't we? When do we get to see the little girl? Indeed. It'll be a long stretch from around 9 to 12, so let's give it our best. Yeah, 3 hours of work, huh? Before the experiment, we need to examine your brain. Please, change into the testing clothes. Which we don't have to have in a sprite, because this is first person. Miyoko handed Yuri a change of clothes. In the surrounding area, the professor's colleagues were busy preparing for the examination. Scanning preparations complete. Send me the data from the previous 2 rounds. None of them showed any interest in seeing Yuri's naked body, but she still tried to find cover to change behind. But still, today's experiment is quite unusual, huh? The professor said it's to create a spirit, but is that even possible? The moment Yuri pondered the possibility, create a spirit, huh? The phone rang. What could that be? Puzzled, the professor picked up the phone. Yes, Tenkawa speaking. We're in the middle of an experiment right now, so... Before she could finish, the professor's face froze over. Natsuhiko did what? Huh? Yuri gasped, too, when she heard that name. As Yuri strained her ears to listen, the professor continued the phone call. Yes, yes. What did you say? Mashiro and Yui as well. Understood. I'll be heading over there right now. And with that, the professor hung up the phone. What happened with Hikari? I'm not sure, but it looks like those three came to Labo. Huh? How? How indeed, and right as we're running an experiment. What in the world could he need at a time like... Right as the professor spoke, the sound of an explosion rang out in the distance. So how did Yuri get back into her regular clothes during this emergency? Did she stop and change and then run away? Yuri was so taken by surprised that she dropped the testing clothes she was about to change into. What was that sound? As if to answer that question, more and more sounds echoed forth. In before Yuri's been naked this whole time and just projecting clothes onto herself by messing with people's brains. The automatic disaster prevention system broadcast an automated message. Intense tremors detected in B1 Area 1. Intense tremors detected in B2 Area 3. A fire has broken out in B1 Area 2. Intense tremors detected in B2 Area 2. Security has shifted to evacuation mode. All gates, barring those leading to Area N, have been opened. Yuri didn't really understand what was going on, but she did know that something terrible was befalling the facility. Back into the maid outfit! Professor! Yuri became frightened and walked up to her, butt naked. The professor wrapped Yuri in a protective embrace just as a clamorous broadcast echoed through the halls. This is an emergency broadcast. Explosions of unknown origin have just occurred within the facility. From our current understanding of the situation, explosions occurred simultaneously in 10 different locations inside the facility. Fires have broken out as a result. That broadcast sent all the researchers panicking. Explosions in 10 different locations? Unknown origin? What do you mean, unknown origin? The frightened Yuri clung to the professor. The professor embraced her shoulders back and spoke. It's okay. This facility is equipped with layers upon layers of disaster prevention systems. No matter what happens, it shouldn't escalate to a large-scale disaster. About that, our safety is guaranteed, so there's no need to worry. She spoke in a voice calm to the core, as if she were trying to encourage Yuri. But why did this happen? Why indeed, there's no reason for an explosion to have occurred in this facility. It couldn't be. Terrorism? Terrorism? An anti-BC extremist group has been conducting acts of destruction within the city recently. Yesterday, they blew up the PRC, and that was thought to have been the end of their string of crimes. But could it be that their actual target was here? How did they find out this place is a BC research facility? Okita! Or Anna. Was there an information leak somewhere? I don't know. The same goes for what their goal is. This whole conversation is happening with Yuri buck-ass nude, standing in this room in front of Dr. Tenkawa. Put some clothes on, girl. But it's too dangerous for us to stay here. That's for certain. Yuri, let's evacuate to somewhere safe. Okay. The professor took Yuri by the hand and left the laboratory. She hasn't put her clothes on yet! Oh wait, no, I misunderstood what was going on. she hadn't changed out of her clothes. She hadn't gotten out of her clothes and gotten naked yet. She was just holding the testing clothes. Okay. Like, the way they phrased it made it sound like she had gotten naked and the lab techs were ignoring her naked body. But I see where my misunderstanding was. The professor took Yuri by the hand and left the laboratory. They ran up the emergency staircase and headed to B1, Area 5. Professor, where are we going? There's an emergency shelter here in Area 5. In truth, Area 0 is the safest place, but going there requires tedious formalities. The professor stopped and looked at the wall. There was a numeric keypad affixed to it. 107215. Okay, it opened. The professor entered what appeared to be a password, and the wall slid open, revealing a narrow passageway. They rushed up to a steel door deep inside and opened it. Yuri, I'm sorry, but hide yourself here. This place was designed to withstand minor explosions and fires. It's perfectly safe. All right. I'll go investigate what's happening. And there's the issue with Natsuhiko too, so... Understand? Wait for me here, okay? Understood. Be careful. What if it was Dr. Tenkao? What if Dr. Tenkao is still down here? And she's the one who killed a bunch of those people. The professor nodded and left the shelter. Yuri was left there alone. The sound of explosions kept going on and on. Hikarin's here? Why would he come now of all times? Yuri was worried about them, but she couldn't just leave the shelter. If I could at least confirm their safety. As Yuri pondered about how to do that, it hit her. I know, I'll use BC. She could confirm Natsuhiko's current situation using senses sympathy. Furthermore, since the facility was now in evacuation mode, the BC-insulated security gates were all wide open. Meaning she would in theory be able to use BC on him even if he was in a faraway area. Yuri focused her mind and tried using senses sympathy on Natsuhiko. But the moment her senses sympathized with Natsuhiko's, an intense headache struck. The pain Natsuhiko felt propagated to Yuri. The girls beside him looked at him in concern. Natsuhiko, do you have a headache again? Are you okay, Natsuhiko? Hang in there. And here's where she reworks Natsuhiko's memories and reveals herself. This headache. Yuri knew the truth behind that headache. It was the headache Natsuhiko would always get when his mind was on the verge of collapse. The moment that thought crossed her mind, they heard another explosion from nearby. Natsuhiko promptly covered for Mashiro and Yui. 1 second later, a blazing wind shot by, and the kids were blown away. Are you two okay? They slowly got up after having fallen on top of each other. Yeah. I'm okay. The two groaned, but they appeared to be uninjured. Oh my god, I cannot wait to catch up with the plot again. Oh, we're probably going to have more flashbacks to what Yuri was doing during the events of Route A. Oh, I want to get out of flashback hell and into present time and moving forward. The two groaned, but they appeared to be uninjured. Thank goodness. Yuri felt relieved as the three kids ran around, searching for an exit. She didn't understand what their objective was. But Yuri had a lone desire. I need to get those three out of here as soon as possible. Yuri focused further and sent Natsuhiko telepathy. Intense telepathy that worked not only to cause an auditory hallucination, but a visual one as well. Huh? Yuri? Natsuhiko stopped in his tracks, speechless. His eyes were no doubt seeing Yuri. Okay, so this is Brain Ghost Yuri. Okay, sorry, this is not Brain Ghost Yuri. This particular Yuri was real Yuri projecting herself into his mind. So Mashiro and Salu could not see her. His eyes were no doubt seeing Yuri. Hikarin, why did you come here? What about you, Yuri? Why are you here? You left home? Yuri was holding a conversation with him without issue, but she was relieved she had other thoughts on her mind as well. First, I need to find the reason Hikarin came to Labo, and with that information, I need to think of a way to get him to leave. Yuri immediately peered into Natsuhiko's memory. She looked through his memories of what he experienced in the previous few days. How he came across a traffic accident. How he met Salu. I know, I've seen this. I spent 20 hours seeing this. How he heard about the terrorists from Mashiro and how they came to Labo to stop them. But we're one step behind, and the terrorist attack proceeded. The watch that broke and stopped at that time left a severe impression. Once she had caught all of the details, Yuri murmured in admiration and surprise. So that's what happened. Those words were heard by Natsuhiko as well via BC. What do I do? Now that she had understood the situation, Yuri was at a loss for how to proceed. The first thing on the agenda would probably be to get them out safely. But there was something else that was equally important, breaking his mind free of her. Hikarin's trying to regain his memories. Natsuhiko had been tormented by his frequently chaotic memory for some time. He still lacked any of the preparedness to know the truth that the professor had talked about. But if he were to fall victim to his panic disorder or stupefaction in this situation, it would mean certain death. After all, he'd nearly gotten caught in an explosive blast mere moments ago. If something were to happen to him, then even Mashiro and Yui could get caught up in it. And even if the three of them did escape, Natsuhiko would eventually regain his memory of 9 years ago regardless. And then his mind would collapse yet again. In light of the impending crisis, there was only one path for Yuri to take. In that case, I'll start now, and manipulate Hikarin's memory to give him the strength he needs to handle the truth. She didn't know how much time was left, but it was something that needed to be done while she guided them down an escape route. It was the only way. Hikarin has so many people there to support him now. As long as Mashiro and Yui are there for him, I'm sure Hikarin can handle the truth. To get him to accept the truth and free him from her curse. I'll rewind time for Hikarin as many times as it takes. Well, it took 7. And thus, Yuri began manipulating Natsuhiko's memories. She guided him gradually towards mental preparedness. There were countless things she needed to do. First, she had to make Natsuhiko aware of his own growth. Next, she had to strengthen how he felt about his bonds with other people around him. In Hikarin's mind, time stopped 9 years ago. I've got to get it moving again. Natsuhiko's memories seemed to be slightly warped by the actions of his own brain. Even Yuri could clearly see that his impressions of Mashiro and Salu were far worse than what they actually should be. which was likely the result of how he had closed his heart to others for many years. But if he kept that up, he would have no chance of handling the impending truth. And to that end, Yuri worked to mend Natsuhiko's impressions of the ones who supported him. Mashiro and Salu in particular, to more fitting, favorable impressions. Yuri took extreme care to ensure that her modifications would seamlessly blend with reality. So what actually happened? Meanwhile, Yuri also dropped some hints to the truth one by one. She hinted that soon enough, his false peace would end, and he would have to part with the Phantom. So how much of Root B actually happened? How much of Root B actually happened? Oh my god. Did I go through 20 hours of Root B flashbacks that didn't happen? Oh my god. Okay, I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. All of Route B was you playing as Yuri trying to nudge him in the correct directions with the SSS. The few bad endings for B were concocting false scenarios that things would go wrong if he didn't believe in the people around him. Which explains why you have to set their senses high for basically the entire thing. Oh my god, that's a story reason for no gameplay? Oh my god, I hate Root B so much. I hate Root B so much. Oh my god. Get me out of flashback hell. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. I'll be back in a minute, guys. Of course, the irony of me being this ticked off about Flashback Hell in this game is that I just finished 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which has a lot of flashback presentation in its story, but all the flashback presentation is used to move the story forward and progress your knowledge of the world and what's going on, and often drop crazy revelations on you that recontextualize the whole story. So it feels like you're moving forward with the story even when you're technically looking backwards. But this game, man, this game and its flashbacks that go into so much detail over and over and rehash things and just, oh my god. Like, I think legit we've been trapped in flashback hell for almost twice as long as we were in Route A. We're 60 hours in. And Route A took me, what, 20, 25 hours? Route A was cool. It was intriguing. It was mysterious. There were lots of puzzles to solve in the narrative. And then Route B happened. And then Route C was more. Route C had some cool stuff, but it was, again, it was rehashing Route A. Too verbose and don't need to show as much as they do. Yeah, that's the big problem with the flashbacks in this game, is they go on and on and on and on and on, and nobody proofread the thing to edit it down into a more reasonable length. Like, Route B took me legit like 20 hours, didn't it? This game is so frustrating. And I've probably got a few hours more of, well, I've probably got another hour at least of flashback hell before I get back to the present. Wait, no, more than an hour, because we're going to have to go through Route A as Yuri. Oh my god. Alright, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna eat a cookie or something. Oh boy. Okay. So, here's the thing, Shy. This has made me really mad and really killed my momentum for the day. So I want to get to a good stopping point. At least make it to the point where I'm halfway through this month's patronage. And stop for the day. And then do the remaining 5 hours tomorrow. Because this is... I am annoyed. And I'm not sure I'm in much of a frame of mind to really do much of this game today. I'm close to the end of these Yuri flashbacks. Why don't we get to the end of the Yuri flashbacks, call it a day, and then start tomorrow fresh. You won't be seeing any of A from her perspective aside from how she ended up in the burning room. Oh. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Okay. I realize I'm probably being unreasonable with how mad I am about this. But I'm really mad about this. Alright, let's proceed for a bit. At least get to the end of the Yuri flashbacks. Natsuhiko was perplexed at first, but eventually he gained the strength to face the past. And as he overcame several crises, he was able to keep moving forward, even in Labo. How much of that actually happened? Because Mashiro and Salu were there for him. A Case N has just been detected. In accordance with this emergency, security has shifted to blockade mode, locking down all gates and bulkheads. Even when he encountered a Case N announcement in Area 5, he did not despair. As she saw the results of Natsuhiko's progression, Yuri thought to herself, with this, Hikarin might be able to accept the truth. Natsuhiko's headache was gone as suddenly as it had come. His mental preparation was almost complete. All that's left is the finishing touch. The finishing touch make Natsuhiko realize the fact that Mashiro had been supporting him all these 9 years. If he only knew, he'd be thankful for Mashiro and would perhaps be able to cope with Yuri's death. Yuri didn't change his memories, she was just changing how he felt about it? Let's take a sidestep of conversational topic and talk about Disgaea 3 for a moment. I love the Disgaea games. It's one of my favorite franchises. Disgaea 2 is, I think it made number 15 on my top 50 list. Love that stuff. Disgaea 1 is great. Love Disgaea 2. Disgaea 4 is fun. Disgaea 5 has incredibly good gameplay and a short story. But Disgaea 3 is... Well, Disgaea 6 is now my least favorite entry in the series, but Disgaea 3 has a problem where it tries to engender character development in the main character by having his friends go into his soul and edit his personality. And that just killed the story for me, because that's not his character development. That's not him developing, that's him being forcibly rewritten. And this obviously isn't as severe a case of that, but that doesn't make me feel better about this. He didn't have those character revelations himself as things were going on. He just had his memories adjusted to make him feel better about it. God damn it. SMH my head. The problem was how to open the gate after it had locked down, but Yuri happened to see that the professor's security card had been dropped in the stairwell. Natsuhiko hadn't noticed it, so Yuri tried to inform him of it, but... Immediately after she did, there was an unforeseen turn of events. Natsuhiko had gone to Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa's office and found something. A file of newspaper articles covering the incident 9 years ago. Huh? Natsuhiko's body trembled. He looked towards Yuri in a daze. Oh no, it's still a little bit too early. But now that it's come to this, there's nothing I can do but gamble on Hikarin's mental strength. Yuri prepared herself and sent telepathy to Natsuhiko. With the dramatic fade out of existence effects, she really put her all into making this dramatic. Now you understand why I said I couldn't go with you, don't you? It was a conclusive statement heralding the end of a long dream. No. Natsuhiko's innermost thoughts propagated to Yuri as well. His confusion, sorrow, agitation, fear, and despair. But even so, Yuri continued. Hikarin, it's time to say goodbye. I'm sorry for deceiving you for so long. I wanted to support you, but I'm sure you'll be okay without me now. You've noticed it these past few days, haven't you? You're not alone, Hikarin. Yuri spoke sincerely to move Natsuhiko's heart, but her voice didn't get through to him. For when Yuri ceased the telepathy transmission and erased the phantom, Natsuhiko groaned faintly and screamed madly. No way, that still wasn't enough? Yuri fell into despair once more. She had no idea that the curse of hers that bound him was that strong. And then the door opened and Mashiro rushed in. Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko, I heard a scream. What happened? Yuri. She disappeared. Natsuhiko flared up at Mashiro. As if to spew out the sorrow of losing Yuri and the bitterness of having been lied to for 9 whole years. If I remembered how egregious the flashbacks were, I'd have probably inserted some shorter games between each route just to give some breathing room between. Keep that in mind for the future, please. Because that would have helped this experience a lot. I'm not mad at you, Shy. But this game frustrates me. And I think breaking it up would have made it less frustrating. Hey, Zipperworks! Thank you for the raid. Welcome. How's it going? As if to spew out the sorrow of losing Yuri and the bitterness of having been lied to for 9 whole years. Yuri's gone, isn't she? She's been gone for 9 goddamn years! And you just played along with my madness, didn't you? Is this your idea of a joke? No. Both Natsuhiko and Mashiro's eyes welled up with tears. And as she observed the situation through Natsuhiko's eyes, Yuri too was saddened. Thanks for the raid, Zipperworks. Have fun with your errands. No, Hikarin, you mustn't hold it against Mashiro. She's been there supporting you all this time. Yuri was rife with regret. What should I have done? What should I do for Hikarin? But before Yuri could think any further, the unexpected happened. Suddenly, Natsuhiko's vision was engulfed in darkness. His consciousness was abruptly thrown into that endless darkness. Huh? What is this? Natsuhiko was astonished, but Yuri understood what was happening. No way. Hikarin sympathized with Mashirone's mind? The third ability, Sense's Sympathy, had awoken within Natsuhiko. Though he had shown signs of it in the previous night, it was still an unexpected but welcome surprise. That's it! Now Hikarin should be able to understand Mashirone's feelings. Natsuhiko peered into Mashiro's memories, bewildered at what was going on. I swear to fucking Christ, if we have a flashback to Natsuhiko having a flashback to Mashiro's memories with Yuri riding along, providing new commentary, I'm gonna fucking scream. Natsuhiko peered into Mashiro's memories, bewildered at what was going on. And thus, Natsuhiko learned the truth that Mashiro had been caring for him all these 9 years. Okay. Good. We're skipping that possibility. When he returned to reality, Natsuhiko tearfully apologized to Mashiro. Mashiro, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Huh? You've always been there to support me, haven't you? You've always been there for me, right by my side. As she listened in on their conversation, Yuri thought to herself, thank goodness. Now Hikarin and Mashiro are both truly free from my curse. And now her role was complete. With that feeling of closure, Yuri calmly disconnected from Natsuhiko's mind. Her own senses returned to her as soon as she did. What spread out before her eyes was an empty room. But the sight of the lonely room began to blur. She's crying. Huh? Why am I? Yuri realized that she was crying. Natsuhiko is free from Yuri's curse. Can I be free from Yuri's curse? Please! I want to be free from Yuri's curse! Free to be with Mashiro. I don't want that. I just want to be free from Yuri's curse. They should have done one sentence and then she or he learned a lot more with some of the repeat flashbacks. Yeah. She thought that was what she had always wished for, and yet Yuri felt as if her heart had been torn in two. No, this is for the best. With that belief, Yuri wiped her tears. Hey, Yuri, you never know. It's 2030. People are a lot more progressive in 2030. You might get a polycule marriage. Just then. Oh, she heard a knock on the shelter door. Who is it? Ah, Professor? Yuri was taken aback and rushed over to the door. If the professor had returned, then Yuri wanted her shoulder to cry on. She was the only one who understood Yuri, the only one who shared her sadness, someone she could truly call Mom. But when she opened the door... it's Watase! Uh-oh! She found not the professor, but an unfamiliar man standing there. So Watase, pre-mind wipe, knew about the secret room. Finally found you. You're a person of interest to this lab, right? Who are you? I'm a rescue worker. I'm here to save you guys. His voice sounded familiar. It sent shivers of anxiety down her spine. Where have I heard that voice? She soon remembered. She'd heard that voice in Natsuhiko's memory. He was one of the terrorists. You're with Q? The man unintentionally gasped. For a moment, his face froze over. But that face soon warped into a wicked expression. Hey, did you cheat and use BC to read my mind? No, actually. Well, whatever. You're coming with me. And with that, the man grabbed Yuri by the arm. No, stop it! Please don't struggle. I won't have to get violent as long as you behave. So, okay. Hang on. Shouldn't, at this point in Watase's timeline, shouldn't he be looking to put a bullet in her brain? The way he tried to do with Natsuhiko and Mashiro? Why isn't he trying to kill her? Please don't struggle. I won't have to get violent as long as you behave. It was very hard to take the man's words at face value. Then I'll just have to erase his. Yuri plotted to destroy the man's memory and run. But before she could, a pain rang through her neck. Ow! Though she didn't understand what just happened, Yuri tried to use BC. Huh? But nothing happened. She couldn't destroy the man's memory. She couldn't even use sense of sympathy itself at all. Why? I injected you with a BC inhibitor. Your abilities won't work on me now. No way. Without BC, Yuri was nothing but an ordinary, powerless girl. As Yuri despaired, the man wrapped his arm around her neck. He applied pressure to her carotid artery. Yuri tried to shake him off, but the man was too strong for her to even budge an inch. Suddenly, her sight blacked out. Hikarin, Mashiron! As Yuri's consciousness faded away, she prayed that the others would safely escape from here without encountering this man. Well, unfortunately, Yuri was woken up by a strange sound in an extreme heat. Hikarin. For a moment, she remembered the time she was locked away in Labo with Natsuhiko, so she unthinkingly called out his name. But she was mistaken. It was currently September 16th, 2030, 9 years after that memory. Yuri looked around. She didn't see the man, but the hallway was engulfed in flames. The fires had probably spread while she was unconscious. I gotta get away. Yuri stood up in confusion and ran away from the flames. As she ran, Yuri thought to herself, how long have I been unconscious? Where did that man go? The man had disappeared after knocking Yuri out. From that observation, she couldn't understand what his goal was at all. Yeah, me neither. No, there's no time to think about all of that. First, I need to find a way to survive. Yuri shook off her doubts and ran through the hallway. On the way, she stopped by a room and obtained a level 6 security card that had been left behind. She tried going to Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa's office, but saw no sign of Natsuhiko and the others. They probably escaped by their own means. Thank goodness. Now, right now, 2 of them are bleeding out, and the third one is having troubles. Right when Yuri sighed in relief, the flames assailed her. Yuri kept running as the fire and smoke chased her. She went through the blazing factory, and then into Area 1. But there were no escape routes to be found. There was no longer any way out. Every path she took was blocked by fire. That room. Yuri plunged into a nearby room, every fiber of her being focused only on escaping from the flames. She lowered her body and crawled under a desk so as not to breathe in the smoke. But she could tell it was only a matter of time before that room burned up too. Am I going to die here? She thought that might not be such a bad thing. Oh, don't let the depression get to you. Even if she were to survive, she probably would still never make it out of Labo. As long as Natsuhiko and the others managed to escape in the end, that was probably good enough for her. That's right, the lie we kept telling is now coming true, that's all. And with that thought, Yuri prepared herself, but then... Okay, so all the fun theories about Yuri potentially being a psychic projection happening to all of the adults being affected by WX particles. No, that was just regular old Yuri. Every time I throw out a fun theory, this game knocks it down. And with that thought, Yuri prepared herself. But then she heard an explosion from outside the room. Yuri couldn't help but scream. The door to the room was crushed and flames rushed in. And then the force of the flames fiercely intensified. Perhaps something explosive had caught on fire. The heat was so intense that it was difficult to breathe. A heat haze rose from the entire floor, warping the sight of Yuri's surroundings. One sec. Okay. A heat haze rose from the entire floor, warping the sight of Yuri's surroundings. As she watched the haze, all of the preparation Yuri had made to accept her death turned into fear. No. No, 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 I don't want to die. I don't want to die. She kept screaming in solitude. The fear of actual impending death blew away what little resolve to die Yuri thought she had. A heat wave blew through like a windstorm. Smoke filled the room. Yuri coughed violently, her eyes watered. But then she heard voices from somewhere in the distance. Get a hose ready. Roger. They were female voices. Whoa, out of the way, Captain. Commence water release. Roger, here it comes. Judging by their conversation, they seemed to be firefighters or something. When Yuri lifted her head, she heard the sound of water coming from the other side of the crushed door. They were extinguishing the fires outside. The violent heat wave rapidly died down. There's no doubt about it. They're firefighters. Someone. Help me. She heard a voice in response. Someone's in that room? Yuri called out once more to whomever it was that was rushing over to her. Someone, help me! And finally, the owner of the footsteps came running into the room. Are you okay? Well, that's an ominous talk sprite for this situation. Yuri desperately reached out her hand. But as soon as she made eye contact with the owner of the voice, Yuri gasped in shock. Standing there was the man who had just attacked her earlier. Why? Why did he come to save me? She was thoroughly confused and understood nothing of the situation. The man's face stiffened too for some reason, and he froze in place. Meanwhile, the fires drew closer to Yuri. Eventually, the man shot off like a bullet, straight into the room to save Yuri. Are we done? Are we free from Yuri's curse? We're free from Yuri's curse! Ah! Yes! Oh my god. Okay. Okay, alright. Whew. Oh, I need a drink of water. Wash the taste of these meds out of my mouth. The prednisone is working wonders on me, but goddamn does it taste awful. Okay, so I think this is where I want to stop for the day. We'll stop here, and we'll come at this refreshed and ready to move on with the story tomorrow. Goddamn. This... We're free. I think we're free. Are we free? Tell me we're free. Tell me we're free of flashback hell. It does throw into interesting relief that Root D Watase has been so nice and friendly. Seeing him from outside in this state is actually pretty fun. Oh my god, but goddamn. Okay, what do you think, Shy? How do you feel about that? About that plan? If you want to take a break from Root Double just to let it breathe for a bit, I don't mind making the next 2 streams of mine 1,000 times resist just to let September be a good break. As in tomorrow's stream be 1,000 times resist? Honestly, I'm so frustrated with Root Double that I wouldn't object to trying 1,000 times resist. Tomorrow. Yeah? Then yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't I stop Root Double here for now, right at this inflection point where we're about to escape Yuri's curse. We'll do 1,000 times resist for a couple of streams, see how that goes. We'll do beach episode, To the Moon beach episode, and then I'll let you decide whether we do Root Double in October or 1,000 times resist in October. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what we're going to do then. Oh my god. I'm sorry for complaining so much, Shy. I'm sorry for complaining so much. But goddamn, I'm frustrated. I swear to Christ, if the game had sent me into a flashback inside a flashback with another flashback with a new ride-along commentary character, I would have fucking screamed. So yeah, we're gonna stop Root Double here. We're going to play some of a different game or two, and then we'll come back to Root Double in October. That is a plan. Excellent. Let's do it. Cool. But for now, that's where we're gonna end for today. So, please pledge to my Patreon at patreon.com/Loreweaver streams. I need the money. And there are slots open where you can pick a game for me to play once or twice a month. And my schedule coming up is tomorrow will be 1,000 times resist for a patron. Friday will not be a stream day. Saturday will be Final Fantasy XIV. Sunday will be Crosscode for a patron. Monday will be 1,000 Times Resist for a patron. Tuesday, I have a doctor's appointment. And next Wednesday will be The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky 2nd chapter for a patron. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.